As Paul wrote Timothy, to avoid those that count gain godliness. He says, for godliness with contentment is great gain. And we got to understand what he's talking about, because he's not talking about, God not wanting to care for us, but just simply being content with what we have and trusting that, God's not going to forsake us and he's going to provide with us. I mean, this example is given of the children of Israel after they were delivered from the bondage of Egypt, and they spent 40 days in the wilderness where their faith was tested, and they continued to murmur against God, complaining against Moses. They complained against God. He says, God told Moses, he said, they're not complaining against you, they're complaining against me. He said one time they were complaining that he brought them out there to make them die of thirst, and another time he brought us out here to starve us to death. In Egypt we had plenty of food. I mean, and we need to understand what Paul meant, those that count gain godliness. Because look in Revelations, there were one assembly of called out ones that Jesus said, I heard the reports of you that they say you are poor, but yet you are rich. And then there was one assembly of called out ones that it said they were rich, but Jesus said, you're blind and poor and wretched and don't even know it. I mean, and that's the case with a lot of people today. They're claiming to believe in a Jesus and a God, but it's not the one true God and Jesus whom he sent, which is eternal life, John 17:3. Because there is one God and there's one mediator between God and man, the man Jesus Christ, as Paul wrote Timothy in 1 Timothy 2:5. I mean, don't be deceived. John in 1 John 4:1, talking about deceivers who do not confess that Jesus came in the flesh. That's of the Antichrist. That means they confess that Jesus wasn't a man. Even Paul in Philippians chapter 2 says that he who before existing in the form of God, spirit, emptied himself to be made a man in the form of a bondservant. We need to understand the truth. There's only one God.